This is a presentation for a paper I wrote as a requirement in the PhD in E-Research and Technology Enhanced Learning program in Lancaster University. And at the time of this recording, I received final confirmation of its publication in the UP Open University's International Journal of Distance E-Learning. The paper ought to be available for download in the IGDL website soon, but just in case, I will also be providing a download link to accompany this video. This study was conducted at UPOU within the Bachelor of Arts in Multimedia Studies program. Fostering a sense of community has been an interest or even advocacy throughout my time as part of the university. While, dare I say, I've had a bit of success, I did face a ton of challenges, making it difficult to sustain any success beyond the short term. I strongly believe that a higher level of engagement is a key issue in online learning. I also believe that a strong sense of community is important in fostering that engagement. The problem is, these beliefs are based too much on anecdote rather than empirical evidence. It was my hope that conducting this study will help me solve that problem. This entire study takes inspiration from and follows as a conceptual framework what is called the Community of Inquiry model developed by Garrison, Anderson, and Archer in 2000. The model posits that a learning medium is composed of three components: social, cognitive, and teacher presence, which, when working together, results into a meaningful educational experience. The model has been thoroughly studied and critiqued by other scholars over the years. Other studies have also made attempts to expand upon the model. However, its score remains solid and highly regarded. Now, with respect to the COI model, this study attempted to answer three research questions. 1. Is there a correlation between how engaged students are with their sense of community? 2. Does length of residency have any effect on engagement and community? And 3. Given the tools on hand in an online classroom, how can student engagement be improved? The design of the methodology and the framing of the succeeding discussion revolve around these questions. Now, to answer the first research question, this study directly adopts the online student engagement scale and the classroom community scale. Now, there are other means of measuring engagement and sense of community. However, these two were chosen for the following reasons. First, they are both designed with the online classroom in mind. Second, they have been tested for accuracy by previous studies. And third, they, at least to a certain extent, account for the quality of outcomes as perceived by students. These two scales are implemented as a survey answered through standardized Likert scales, which you can take a look at as an appendix in the paper. On top of a descriptive analysis of the results of the scales, I checked for correlation between them. Students were also asked to answer additional items regarding external factors that may have affected their engagement in class. The ongoing academic year, as of this writing, has been significantly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as a series of natural calamities. Asking students whether or not these may have had an effect on them further contextualized their responses to the items in the Likert scales. An open-ended question as to whether or not they wanted to add anything they felt were relevant was also asked to catch anything that the survey could have missed. To answer the second research question, a one-way analysis of variance, or ANOVA, was conducted for the results of each scale. This was meant to determine whether or not there are significant differences between the results from the two different classes representing different lengths of residency in the BAMS program. Now, the third research question was addressed through the analysis of descriptive statistics derived from the answers to the items in the OSE and CCS scales, as well as additional comments possibly shared by the respondents. Due to the constraints in level of access and time, this study was only able to abide by two of the three-phase survey administration procedure as prescribed by Creswell and Guterman. After an initial invitation to answer the survey, there was only time for one follow-up within 4 weeks instead of two follow-ups within a 6-week time frame. Furthermore, while the study adopted both the OSE and CCS scales, it didn't conduct other measurements of engagement and community in parallel to check for their accuracy. Therefore, it was assumed that the assertion that the accuracy of the two scales are adequate. With regards to correlation, while an analysis can establish its existence between the OSE and CCS scales, they cannot provide information on the nature of the relationship between engagement and community. There is not enough to determine whether engagement is dependent to community or if it's the other way around, or if there is some sort of synergy between them. Now let's take a look at the results. Let me break this table down. A total of 67 students responded to the survey, 60 of which are from MMS 100 and 7 from MMS 175. This table shows that descriptive statistics for OSE and CCS by class and total participants. The values here are based on the Likert scales of the OSE and CCS, whose item answers are standardized to have the lowest value of 0 and the highest value of 4. Again, for a clearer picture of what I'm talking about, please take a look at the appendix found in my paper. Respondents gave an average answer of 2.613 for each item in the OSE scale. This implies that students in both classes exhibit fair to moderate levels of engagement. On the other hand, as far as sense of community is concerned, with a mean score of 2.311 for items in the CCS, students are apparently more or less neutral. This can imply that while it is not discounted that there is some level of connectedness or sense of belonging among students and teachers, students might not definitively feel there is a community at large. Here are the results of the correlation analysis between OSE and CCS. At 0.422 with statistical significance at alpha at 0.001, the correlation coefficient indicates that there is a moderate positive relationship between the student's level of engagement and sense of community in classes. This corroborates the assertion that student engagement and sense of community are tied to each other. However, the analysis cannot determine causality. The data on hand cannot indicate which depends on the other or if there is a synergy between the two. While there are nominal differences, no statistical significance was found in the differences between the OSE and CCS scores of the two classes. It suggests that among the respondents, there is no apparent increase or decrease in engagement and sense of community the longer students stay in the BAMS program. Now, while that may be the case, looking at other aspects of the data may give a wider perspective regarding the matter. The MMS 100 and MMS 175 classes covered by the study are populated by 169 and 75 students respectively. This leads to the fact that the online survey yielded a response rate of 35.5% in MMS 100 and 9.33% in MMS 175. In the field of education, the acceptable response rate for paper-based surveys is around 50%, while for online surveys it is lower at 33%. While it can be argued that the response rate of the MMS 100 class is acceptable, the same cannot be said with MMS 175. The question here is whether or not it would be reasonable to surmise that if participation in the survey can be viewed as a manifestation of engagement itself, and if it is, can it be argued that MMS 175 students tend to be less engaged compared to their younger schoolmates in MMS 100, just because much fewer of them answered the survey? Now let's take a look at other external factors highlighted by the participants. This figure shows that out of the 67 respondents, all but 3 felt that there was a detrimental effect with regards to their engagement in class. 31 of them opined that there was a major detrimental effect, While not all respondents elaborated on their opinions, those who did indicated two general types of issues. The first type is technical related, such as poor internet connectivity, which became more pronounced in certain areas due to the surge in nationwide use, as people were confined to their own homes, as well as power failures, mainly caused by the series of storms and typhoons that beset the Philippines in the latter half of 2020. The other type is related to mental and emotional well being, as the pandemic brought about drastic and jarring changes in lifestyle, which students have found stressful. The single respondent who claimed a beneficial effect to engagement did not elaborate his or her position. Respondents are, however, more divided with regards to community, as this figure would suggest. While 37 felt that it also degraded in the face of immediate realities, 11 believed that there was no effect, with another 19 believing that there was a beneficial effect. While students do continue to struggle in the face of the current adversities, some have made strides through establishing stronger connections amongst each other, leading to an improved sense of community. While it would be difficult to assess what goes on in other classes without conducting the same survey on them, the data collected on the two classes have been revealing of their dynamics. Responses to the survey imply that there is strong motivation towards learning. This can mean that the issue is not necessarily building motivation. This may be about harnessing what motivation is already inherent to the students. On the other hand, survey items with the lowest mean scores have involved interpersonal interaction and communication. This alludes to a general hesitation towards being more open on a personal level with peers and teachers. Replies to the open-ended questions in the survey provide clues for addressing this issue, such as using platforms such as Zoom or Discord. Facebook has long been documented as an option as well. Furthermore, responses also suggest that a more formal organization among students would be helpful in fostering sense of community. As of this writing, UPOU has not sanctioned or recognized the existence of any student academic organization. Now clearly, peer interaction should be encouraged. The question is, where should boundaries be set, if at all? How can the university decide which platforms or technologies to sanction? How involved should teachers be? Effective faculty participation is a key driving factor towards the success of technology-mediated distance education. However, it is unclear if that extends to activities outside the bounds of official platforms. As evidenced by respondents' feedback, teachers in the two classes are generally well regarded in terms of being a source of encouragement. However, teacher presence does have an impact over how students behave even outside the online classroom. Therefore, it can be argued that while teachers could still have some involvement in fostering community outside the online classroom, spearheading the activity may only lead to the same dynamics as in the classroom. Thus, community building may require significant proactive involvement among students. The findings allow the study to conclude that there is indeed a relationship between student engagement and community. The combined results of the OSE and CCS provided a picture of an educational experience as expressed in the community of inquiry model. The study also supports the argument that conditions in the physical environment can also have an impact in an online classroom, but it cannot be accurately determined to what degree. It may therefore be prudent to study this further should a theoretical framework reflecting this observation continue to be forwarded. The items in the OSE and CCS scales may not have been given an in-depth analysis, beyond as a gathering tool for quantitative analysis. The items from the two scales have the potential to provide a lot of insight with regards to student behavior. Responses to the scales can be a strong basis for formulating approaches and strategies in learning design and teaching online classes at UPOU and other similar institutions. And that concludes this presentation. I hope you found something interesting. If you haven't done so, please go through the full paper for broader context and greater detail. If you have any questions or comments, please post in the discussion forums or email me directly. Thank you for watching and listening.